Okay, so let's talk about Shadow or Six Shot because that's coming later this month and I just want to discuss some things. So for this first wave of Six Shot, we're getting one Origin skill, 5th Shot boost, and Assassinate 6. Let's go over Assassinate 6 first because that's pretty much the only real interesting new skill. So first of all, comparing it to regular Assassinate, which has 270% and 490% as its multipliers, Assassinate 6 has 395 and 690, which if you average out comes to about a 43.5% increase in damage, which is honestly a bit underwhelming, but every 10 seconds Assassinate 6 becomes Crush 6. Now, Crush 6 is basically a stronger Assassinate, and it looks cooler, and the multipliers are 480 and 835%. So if you compare that to regular Assassinate, then that's about 74% stronger, which is a bit better. So the actual interesting thing about the skill is that while passively you get 1 charge of Crush 6 every 10 seconds, when you use Shadow Veil you get 2 charges right away, and when you use Smokescreen you get 3, and the number of charges you can hold is capped at 5. In addition, while you're in smoke, every 3 seconds you get 1 charge instead of the normal 10 seconds. So most likely people are going to use Smokescreen during Origin or 180-second burst, and Shadow Veil during 90-second burst. For Origin burst, the rotation is probably going to be you place smoke, you have 3 crush charges, you buff up, use crush once while animation cancelling SSF, sonic blow, and then origin skill. When the origin skill ends, you'll probably be at or about 5 crush stacks, and then you just unload everything for the rest of your burst. It's pretty much very similar to the current burst rotation, except obviously with the origin skill. You just have to make sure you expend 1 charge of crush before you burst, otherwise you're going to cap out on charges. Also, using Crush puts you into Darksight, so I guess if your Darksight's on cooldown, you can use Crush to force Darksight. Okay, some more interesting things about Crush 6. Because the cooldown of Crush 6 is drastically reduced in Smokescreen, I actually highly recommend using cooldown skip inner ability if you want to go for damage. This is because CD skip works on Smokescreen, and if you skip the cooldown, then you get another smoke, which is 20% crit damage for your party, and also a bunch of Crush stacks. Since Smoke's cooldown is 150-second cooldown, if you reset Smoke during your 180-second burst, then you can use it again right after the first smoke ends, and it'll be back up for the next 180-second burst. Now, second lane cooldown skip only gets 10%, while first line is 20%, so you kind of have to go for first line. But also if you're in Reboot, you're going to be farming Infinite for Soul Eater Fragments, then first line drop rate is also BIS, so it's kind of awkward. Ideally, for a long-term flexible inner, I'd go for 20% CD skip, 15% drop rate, and 10% boss damage. Another thing is that the 10-second cooldown for passive crush charges does get affected by CD Hat. So obviously a lot of people already run CD Hat on Shad for Trick Blade, and this might increase the value of CD Hat. But some things to consider is that because Crush is 10 seconds already, CD Hat will only get halved value, so a -2 line will only reduce the cooldown by 1 second. Also, during your 180-second burst, since Smoke already reduces the charge cooldown to 3 seconds, CD Hat basically has no value during Big Burst. I actually don't know what's better, 3-line stat, -2 plus 2-line stat, or -4 second, but they're all good, and I think it just kind of depends on what you want. Now moving on to the Origin skill, which has a really cool name in Korean, but I'm sure it's going to get butchered in translation. It looks really cool, although I'm sure a lot of people are going to get sick of cutscenes real fast. It does work with Shadow Partner and has a damage multiplier of almost 1.5 million% at max level. For comparison, Sonic Blow right now does around 196,000% and Trick Blade does about 88,000. So I think it is an above average Origin skill in terms of damage and visuals, so we can be pretty happy about that. The final thing I want to talk about is the Hexamatrix node priority. So there's a couple different variations floating around, including in the Shad Discord somewhere, but I haven't calculated anything myself, so I can't say what's right or not. However, one thing that is kind of interesting is that at level 1 boost, Shadow Soul immediately gets 1 extra charge, so 5 charges total. Obviously this doesn't increase DPS in bossing, but I've always wanted more charges, so this could be an early pickup for better mobility and mobbing. So yeah, that's pretty much it for now. Obviously when we actually get 5th job in game, we'll check it out, but until then, I'll see you guys around.